hard to believe. I must agree.
Attention, people of Earth, I have an important announcement to make.
This is insane.
Toto, I have a feeling we're not in Kansas anymore.
So you found us.
What is it trying to tell us?
No strings, no catch. You own everything.
Now stay tuned to ROCKFLUX.
The only station that matters.
It's an excursion into the odd and into the very, very different.
Good morning.
After he's stalked, we must get rid of him immediately.
Just sit right back and you'll hear a tale.
Thank you, my friends. Thank you for coming out so early. So early in the morning. It's 3:31 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for you curiosity seekers. It's February 13th in the calendar year 2022. Pretty crazy, right?
Your papers, please.
Who would ever think that we'd be at a time in the year 2022? That's the kind of stuff that would be going on. Man, it's crazy.
This is a nightmare. It must be a nightmare.
Yeah. How am I so bright and chipper this early in the morning, for crying out loud? Hey, look at that plaque, my YouTube plaque. Presented to Tony Caravan Live for exceeding 3 viewers. The morning show featuring the legendary Tony Caravan, over 500 shows and counting, 10 books, 50 songs, no viewers. Title of today's show is Do We Live on a Prison Planet, Soul Trapped? And the first chat I put up is Escape, Get Away. Interesting, right? Oh, by the way, I spent a couple hours on that program, and I think I found the gallstones. Yeah, that's the inside. That's my innards. Yuck. From a CT scan. I don't know. It's not as bad. If that is it, and I'm pretty sure it is, I mean, it's like, you know, I got gallstones. I mean, there's one there that looks like it could be getting ready to, like, escape and get away. That could cause complications. But, you know, considering that they could be the size of sand or the size of a golf ball, these are more or less the size of like a, you know, canned pea or something like that. So, I don't know. It's possible that these things could not be a problem. I'm going to try not to, whatever. By the way, here's what it looks like outside my door with my new security camera. Kind of, it's not even night vision. It's just, that's how much light there is on my street. Camera 2 is a different camera. It's just, well, you could call that a security camera 2, but it's that weird light that we get off the sides. Yeah, we just got rid of it. This show's so early that we're never going to see much more than that snow pile. We're supposed to get some more snow today on the the mid-Atlantic states, eastern parts of the U.S., and of course the high elevations in the, across the northern tier of the country and in the mountainous areas, getting down to Colorado. Currently outside my studio, it's 23 degrees. The high today is going to be 27 and the low is going to be 12. And I was listening to NOAA radio this morning. Pardon me. And, this year's starting off, the stats aren't looking too good for Greta. And notice Facebook isn't accepting links to my videos anymore. So I must have said something or somebody must have gotten upset. The absurdity of these YouTube plaques, I just had to have some fun with that. Presented to Tony Garvin Live for exceeding 3 viewers. Yeah, right. Let's get rid of that thing just for a second to show you. There it is on the wall. See, it's a real thing. You see the Scotch tape on it, I guess. Game over hat's kind of gotten a little messed up. Put it like that. Yeah. It shows up on one side or the other. That's me set. That's me set. Yeah, I got up at 2 something today. Just a little after 2. But I went to bed at by 6. 6 to 2. Do the math. It's 8 hours. I didn't have any moments where it was really up. So it's not like it's a problem. I'm still looking forward to this, though. Grow room. That's what it's really all about. What was that thing I put in here? Oh, no. Music. What do I still have up there? Oh, yeah, you could find, yesterday we were having trouble finding 2 hours. And I didn't bother to check, on YouTube. I think I have it. So, let's go to the videotape. Anybody remember that guy on New York radio or New York TV? Sports announcer. Forget his name. He's got to be long gone now. Let's go to YouTube. YouTube while we're broadcasting live on YouTube. And let's go to Show More. Tony Caravan's Beat Poetry. All right. Virtual Cage, of course. Great tune. Game Over. Great tune. Bigger Than That. Autopilot. These are all good tunes. Everything You Know Is Wrong. Great tune. Driving Down the Road's an excellent tune. These could all be hits. Robots. Portrait. Mini Digiculture. I'm Tired. Wage Slave. 2 hours. There it is. Okay? So it does exist on YouTube. So if you want to listen to that song, 29 views apparently, and I've just made a little semi-freaky video for it. So check it out. All right? It does exist on YouTube. All right? I'll make a note on that here. 2 hours by Tony Caravan can be found on YouTube as a music video. So check it out. Great tune. And I noticed yesterday I was making apologies for the audio quality of the voice. And when I was listening to the playback, because I watched my show in 2 parts. I watched the first half of it, and I can understand how some people get bored. The second half of that show was killer. I mean, it was really a good show. And but anyway, I listened to 2 hours, which I played in its entirety yesterday. It's the words were easy to make out, so I don't know. I mean, nobody's buying this stuff. Listen to it on YouTube. I don't know if I get it 0.05 cents or something like that. I make less money than there is, or I make about the same amount of money as there is CO2 in the atmosphere. Ay, caramba. Ay, caramba. How could somebody be bright and cheery? And I'm just starting to drink my coffee, my bulletproof coffee, which is my version, just a little bit of Irish butter from grass-fed cows, which I'm running low on. Hopefully, there's 2 weeks. Within the next 2 weeks, I might get a supplemental SNAP EBT endowment Though I have to fill out my application. Once a year, you got to fill out this application. I don't know. I hope I didn't lose my social worker because she was really cool and she took care of things for me. They sent me this blank application. It's like, I don't know how many pages, a crap load of pages. I don't have to fill that out from scratch. They have all that information. Nothing's changed. I don't know. It's like 20 pages long. It's ridiculous. Anyway, welcome to the morning show. This is, we got a really big show in head for you. It's, flow of consciousness. Anybody out there?
Hey, it's me. How you doing, man?
I'm doing fine. Glad you checked in. I'm just thinking about, I'm taking a different tact, if that's the correct way of wording it for you folks, with the shows, because we've talked about everything else, and I've gone from the ranting and all that stuff. I mean, like the graphic on the screen, says over here, over 500 shows. I mean, 320 consecutive last year alone. And of course, I was doing them way before that, and I'm already we've done, if we're in this far into February, I've probably done 40 shows or close to it. Another 40. So, it's crazy, and then that doesn't include my podcast before there was podcasting, those 20-year-old podcasts that every now and then I give you a little taste of, like this.
Tony Caravan with you. The Fireside Chat. Hey, thanks for tuning in this week.
That's me, my voice, 20-some years ago. The phone is ringing. This guy got the wrong idea. Let's see. I don't have the phone hooked up, man. I didn't even have my phone turned on. Let's see. The iPhone is like warming up. I can't even answer a call. 3 a.m. Hold on a second. Whoever it is, you could try again. If you look, you can see that I haven't even unlocked my passcode. Let's see. Magic Jack app. What do we got? Who the heck would be up at 3:44 a.m. anyway calling me? Not showing anybody on there. Well, I will put this on here just in case. Let's see if we can get to one. I'm trying. You gotta work with me. See. I'm waiting for it to show up on my phone. I don't know why. Sometimes this phone, you have to like restart it in order for it to answer. Oh, wait, here we go. All right. Can you hear me? Let's see here. Hold on. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And I think I've got you in both headphones this time. What are you doing up at?
All right.
What are you doing at 3:45? Up at 3:45 a.m.
Well, I was. I just got a call that a friend of mine died, and
sorry to hear about that.
I saw you were live, and I was like, it's good that we still have Tony in the world.
Yeah, so far so good. You still there?
Yeah.
I'm just trying to
Yeah, I'm here.
I'm trying to organize my mouse, which is overlapping these tubes and wires, like Thomas Dolby said. Let's see here.
Yeah.
I wasn't really set up for this kind of thing. Yeah. So, and all kinds of things going on. Can you hear?
Oh, no.
Were you able to hear?
I can hear you fine.
Were you able to hear the sound effects?
I didn't hear that. What did you say?
Okay. Did you hear that?
Yeah, I hear you now.
I mean, you hear me, but do you hear this?
No.
Oh, you can't hear the sound effects.
No, that would be nice, though. Yeah, man. I haven't caught up on last week's shows yet. I was actually down at this friend's house doing a project with him and his mom. I got a call back. Got a call from a friend around 3 saying that Lee Bell has left the world. Apparently had a bad accident. So.
Well, yeah,
I saw you were live, and I said, I'll just call Tony in time. I'm glad he's live.
Yeah, I'm live.
You're a good dude, Tony, and the world needs more of you. I'm so glad you've decided to share so much of yourself with them.
Well, we aim to please. I finally got my program and found I've got a gallstone picture up. I finally was able to track them down.
Oh, you did?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I have about a dozen of them in there, but they're not all giant. There's a couple of big ones towards, I don't know if it's the bottom or the top. And there's one like stray. I have it up there on the image. It's kind of freaky.
Oh, there you go.
DICOM software. It's very complicated to use, but it's very fascinating. Yesterday's show, I had my rib cage up. I was able to get.
Yeah, I saw the thumbnail, but I didn't see the
bones. Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I'm not going to really. There's nothing really to mess around with it too much. It's very labor intensive. I put hours in to finally track that down. And the only way I was able to track it down, and I have a pretty much high probability that that's it, 99%, is that I went to some university hospital, and I found, researching CT scans, and I happened to find an image on a CT scan from a hospital. I don't know what it was, UCLA or one of those university hospitals. And it happened to be the same angle that I seem to have been stuck on, even though this program, you can go 360 degrees and all that. Right. And so I was able to make out they were showing gallstones on a particular CT scan. And so I just kept that side by side with my program until I got to the similar. I
told you were going to be a radio technology when you got done.
Well, I got it done, but anyway, so while I was at it, I took the bone rib cage thing, which is like weird. Human body, we're just machines, I was thinking
robots.
I was thinking one of the things that probably, and knock on, wood, that's probably helping me is, I was looking at some of these CT scans of people who were really thin, like somebody with a 6-pack abs or some skinny person. And it's like their organs are so squeezed together. In fact, you got to wonder when a surgeon's working on somebody like that, they must have much harder time working in a tight space,
Yeah.
So if you've got a big, this is just a weird idea. This is, and this to some people, this might be a little bit semi-gross or something. But the idea is if you've got, if you've got extra weight on, if you got extra fat in your stomach area, abdomen, your organs have a little breathing room. You know what I mean? And it's the same even with your intestines and other things. And I think probably maybe in my favor, I don't know, I'm guessing because I've given up on the medical profession and everyone else. But my hypothesis is that the fact that that my gallbladder's not like squeezed in this tight abdomen, that it's less likely to be forcing things out or being, contracted.
Or get infected. Yeah.
Right. And, and there's nothing I could do. And especially after having that surgery that I had, it's like, my stomach, those muscles, all the stuff they cut through and stuff like that. It's like, and getting older, it's like, I'm never going to have a 6-pack ab anyway, so the heck with it. So, yeah.
That's all right, man. There's more of you to love.
Yeah, right.
That's what I've been telling myself.
Well, like I say, at this point, it's me and my cat. So, yeah, I've been getting into some weird stuff. There's like, I don't know, one of my shows semi-sucked, I thought. I didn't suck, but it's like halfway through. I think yesterday's show gets much better halfway through. And there was one other show that did like kind of picks up halfway through. The show on happiness was a pretty good one.
Yeah, I got to check that out. I need some happiness.
And the stuff I'm planning on getting into today is going to be interesting. This idea that do we live on a prison planet, soul trapped? And I've been watching somebody, and I mentioned her in 2 of my videos. I don't know her, but her name's Gigi Young. She was a model or something like that, and then she turned into like a not a psychic, but it's the other type of person. I don't know. People that have, I don't know. She changed her life, and now she's like does these courses and teaches and talks, and she's got video channel on YouTube. But she's
like a life coach.
No, she's into she's out there, like out there in the ether world, the world of
Gaia.
Yeah, that the soul, and all this kind of stuff, and consciousness, and your life, and she does these Q&A things, and some of her shows are 3 hours long. I watched her for almost 2.5 hours before I went to sleep last night, and that was just a straight ahead show where she was getting into some stuff, and she gets into these people like these classic people who've been studying all this stuff about life, existence, where she was getting into something called the eighth. Oh man, what was it? I'll look it up because I got to.
Please do.
What the heck was it? It's something that apparently a lot of people have have not wanted to talk about because it's the let me just see. I have to look her show up. It'll be there listed on her show.
Man, I might have a good cloud set today. Maybe I'll go take pictures.
Yeah, well, it's going to be cold up here. That's for sure. Let's see if I can.
Probably 60 degrees right now where I am.
You're lucky.
I'm outside in shorts and a t-shirt.
It's like 23 degrees here, and it's actually by sunrise, it's going to go down to 21. So, yeah, it's cold.
I got to check and see if the temperature's falling.
Well, I don't think it's going to fall that far for you. You know, I can't find the title. Let me just look under videos in general. I just want to find the name of this thing because it's something really weird.
In my house with no heat on and everything, it's 73.
Wow.
The heat set at 62.
Well, that's a beautiful thing, you know. I wish it was like that here. The eighth sphere. It's called the eighth.
Oh, the eighth sphere.
Sphere, yeah, the eighth sphere, which apparently surrounds the Earth.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
And she had a. Let's see if it's still in here. I want to stop this. She supposedly had some. Cause she kept referring to some kind of PDF thing that she had. Let's see.
It's probably in the comments, or
yeah, I know. I'm looking for it, but she may have taken it. Let's see. This was a while back. Support.
You click on one of her show pages and just see if it's.
No, I'm on there. I'm looking at it. You know, because she is a.
Yeah, I'm looking at all the shows.
She's a premium. Oh. She's a premium person.
Oh.
And
she's pretty.
Yeah, she was a model. She was apparently modeling in over in Europe or in Japan or something like that. And somehow she got to then she just became. You got to read you read her bio or something. Then she became like aware of all this stuff and changed. And now she does this stuff. But anyway, what she was talking about, it's the same thing that I've been talking about and other people have been talking about, but she was talking about it through these classic name people like this guy Steiner and stuff. Did you ever watch that show, Dark Journalist?
No.
Well, you should watch him some. He's got some classic stuff, too. That guy, he does long-form live videos, like I don't know if they're every Saturday night, but I mean they're all archived. She even referred to him about this Steiner guy or Steiner, who like first like had the most about this eighth sphere. But anyway, it's like been a taboo topic because of it's so horrific. And people don't want to hear it. So it's like, you know, we talk about this demiurge and the archons and soul traps. That's what today's show about. So I don't mind telling you about this stuff because this is what I want to get into today anyway. And so that stuff from the Gnostics, you know, they've always talked about the archons and this idea that these, you know,
doesn't all that stuff come out of Dante though? The eighth sphere, the ninth sphere.
No. There's a lot of
yeah.
Well, he may have caught on to it and put it included in his stuff. But no, if you watch her show, if you get into like the Dark Journalist and you get into some of these books, you'll find out that some of this stuff is referred to back in like Eastern. You know, Eastern mythology and Eastern writings. And it just hit and eventually worked its way into some Western works. But it's always been in the background. So Dante may have referred to it because there's these two like evil deities, and Lucifer is mentioned in it. But the worst than Lucifer, is this Armand, okay? So Armand is kind of like the one you got the really evil character that exists in this eighth sphere. And what it does is at these various end times of the Earth, and the Earth has gone through to 4 different ones apparently. This is really fascinating stuff. And I encourage people to go watch Gigi Young's show on the eighth sphere. But anyway, the idea is this thing is surrounding, kind of almost surrounds our planet, encroaches on us. And when you die, you have to pass through the eighth sphere. Some people refer to it as the abyss. And in there are all these portions of pieces of souls and what we would refer to as monsters and these evil, and then, like I say, these evil things. And even Lucifer is supposedly in there, but it's not like the God Lucifer, either the Lucifer of the Bible that's misinterpreted, or the Lucifer light, Lucifer of the light that these Luciferians mistakenly like worship and try to say, oh, it's Lucifer, not Christ, like all that warped stuff. Now, this is pretty interesting, fascinating stuff, and she's not full of shit, and she does her research, and yeah, she didn't happen to mention, Dante, but, Dante may well have picked up on that, because half of half fiction, it's like science fiction is based on science fact, just like fantasy is based on mythology and mythology is based on fact. Like I always say, there are more books written prior to the so-called, age of science, which is just centuries old, but there are thousands of years of text and writings and stories that date back, 10,000 years, 6,000 years. And yet in the modern world, people, they like only, they'll say, well, Copernicus or such and such. And it's like, well, wait a second. That the volume of work written prior, in other words, the stories of history, history of the planet, the universe, and all that stuff, and the fact that they're found on every continent and they have similarities and talk about the same thing. I mean, besides the flood story being hundreds of flood stories out there, but there's all kinds of other stories that also have, that connect. And this is one. Oh, yeah. And this is one of them. This eighth sphere is one that has been written and is ancient and is scary, and it's not been talked about much because it's like the scariest ghost story you could ever tell. I mean, I'm this show, I don't want to really get into it, and you could watch her, and she doesn't really make it out to be a ghost story, but if someone really wanted to talk about this, if you wanted to really scare the crap out of somebody, you talk about the eighth sphere, and you'll understand why nobody really talks about it. Because what it's basically saying, and this is scary enough, is that when you die, in order to get out of here, to get to the next density, vibration, level, soul experience, whatever you want to call it, towards the light, to the next dimension, whatever you believe, to heaven, whatever you believe. All of the stories, everything talks about some abyss, but it's really this eighth sphere. And what happens is this supports my idea that I try to tell people, religious people even for years, that I'm saying I encounter people all the time who have no souls. They're soulless, right? And their action, oh, everyone's got a soul. Everybody's got a soul. No, there's people walking around. There's people that like pieces of souls, people who don't properly nurture their soul, their personalities, whatever. All these things get trapped in this eighth sphere. And it's this recycling center of warped things and almost like chimeras and demons and anything you could, in your wildest dream, you could imagine in horror. And it's this idea of the gate, the gates of the threshold, or whatever it's called, that term. I think Van Morrison had a song about that. The keeper, something of the threshold.
Well, so I think the Hindu called it the Bardo.
And they might.
And so the Bardo is the abyss, the sea, where there's the ferryman is at the edge of the Bardo, but the Bardo is completely inhabited by all of those monsters.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And even the Book of the Dead and Buddhist is this idea of preparing you for death, and that idea of going on this boat. And you could even look at the Nordics, the Norsemen and stuff, and this whole idea of putting the body on the boat and then the flaming arrows and burning it and sending it, on its way, right? You see what I mean? This whole idea, this story of that you've got to pass.
It's the Tibetans that have the Bardo. It's the Tibetans.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The Tibetans. Yeah, she referred to that too. Yeah, this is old. But I'm saying you could go back and look at even like the whole tradition of the putting the body on the boat and the flaming arrows and sending it out, And the idea is it's all based on this same thing on all continents and ancient. This idea that you've got to pass through this abyss. And it's what it really is the eighth sphere, which is like kind of crazy, and it's like too complicated. This show isn't about the eighth sphere. I would have put it in the title. I'm more into the idea of the Gnostics, who also were into this idea of the archons and the demiurge and this soul trap and this being a prison planet. In other words, we're forced.
I have some friends tell me that have a great band called Bardo Pond.
Yeah.
And that's like, I think some of the titles of their songs are like demiurge. And
yeah, that's cool.
You'd probably enjoy them.
Well, I think, that's one of the ways that, people could communicate this stuff. You have to use anything at your disposal in order to get these ideas out. And it doesn't really, but the point is what most people are oblivious to when they argue about politics and words, and he called me this name and that person needs to be deplatformed because of such. I started earlier off, I don't know if you heard it, but the last 2 days I tried to post a video, like a link to my video on Facebook, and they're not accepting them now. So I guess I'm just going to close that account for good, and that's the end of that. So I guess there's something I said.
You can't post your links anymore?
Yeah, I think I must have pissed them off when I said something. They probably got pissed off at me hard pressing this. See, I think there's a lot of people really pissed off right now because 2/3 of the country, even though you got nice weather on the coast there because you got some warm air coming up, I guess, off the water or something. The point of the matter is the whole concept of climate change is pretty much, is the last nail has been put in the coffin the past couple of years. And this is driving these fucking people crazy. Meanwhile, Biden just said, and I'm not a political and screw this shit, but he's like not giving the post office $11 billion to repair their fleet. Though, I'll tell you what, when Obama got in and Trump, I sent a letter to the White House, both presidents, saying that why don't you take the roofs of the post offices and put solar panels on them, and since all those postal vehicles, for the most part, are these little tiny Jeeps that would run so easily and use such little electric, that they should all be electric. Why don't you do it? And neither of them took me up on it. But it's funny that Biden's just holding back the money, but he's, it's like they're not solution people. They're just complainers. In other words, they say, we got to eliminate fossil fuels. Climate change is going to kill us all. It's like, why don't you do what I do? Write a 2-page letter, right? Detailing the exact plans on how to do it and what the solutions are and a rough cost analysis. And showing that you could, you should. The postal vehicles should be electric cars. And just think of the boost of it. And I wouldn't go to Tesla for the contract. I would go to just one of the American companies. I would go to GM or Ford or somebody like that.
The thing
Create American jobs. Create American jobs.
Yeah, but none of that really, addresses the issue. You have, all of the fuel that goes into cars is like less than 3%.
Yeah, I know, I know, and it's organic anyway. It's we're a carbon-based society. That's not our problem. We got our soul.
Yeah, we should be doing nuclear, and if we did nuclear, we would get rid of any excess carbon.
Yeah. I well, completely.
60% of electricity.
I know. I'm trying to keep this show on a certain thing. I agree with you completely. But before we get worry about shit like that we blew it. We should have we fucked up in the 60s and the 70s on that. Okay. No. What we need to get in order is not worry about fossil fuels. What we need to worry about is our eternal souls. Is what I'm trying to say. And the idea is that if there's a possibility, even that all of these ancient writings, whether it's the Gnostics talking about the demiurge and the archons and the soul trap and this being a prison planet, or whether it's the eighth sphere or the abyss or whatever you want to call it, if we are trapped here, okay, then that's the issue. And if it's a matter of you getting your soul, your consciousness in shape, in order, and strong enough to withstand these demonic forces, these mutants, this extreme horror that you're going to be confronted with. See, most people think, oh, I had a near-death experience and it was all white and it was like this tunnel and they're all the same. And the point is, like most people will tell you, don't go to the light. Don't go to the light. That's the trap. That's the soul trap. That's the reincarnation trap. The point is you want to get the fuck out of here. You do not want to repeat this thing again and come back as some Hindu boy, poor Hindu kid who's going to suffer his entire life, or some guy in the Philippines who's going to be like born on the streets, right? You know, or like they believe these, reincarnated as a frickin' cow or something. You want to get the fuck off of this planet, man. Well, anyway,
yeah,
I have another.
I'm
going to get into
one of the virtuous.
There's another thing that I touched about yesterday. There's another way of looking at this in a different way too, and that is that, and I didn't want to jump into that because I want to deal with the negative before I talk about the other positive. One of the other positives is this is another scary concept. Okay, well, I might as well just touch on it, and then I'll just explore both of them. The other scary concept is that because this is such a beautiful world, and it is the Garden of Eden, if for practical purposes, as you well know, all the beauty that's out there, and that we have these senses that can experience all this exaltation and ecstasy and everything else, but that we've blown it, and so that. Because my question was, here's how I came upon this particular idea. I said, and that song 2 Hours of mine, which I played yesterday again. Okay, imagine yourself that your soul is 1,000 years evolved from now, okay? 1,000 years, or, several thousand years evolved, right? And it's like, what the fuck would you want to come down? How fucking is it so boring being this light being that you would actually want to come and live in this physical body that gets illnesses and all this crap, or that you want to come because it's so boring, you want to come down so you could have sex, or that you could see a sunrise or a sunset? That's another scary thing too, because the idea is that, oh, wait a second, I thought we're transcending into higher dimensions of being, and having access to the Akashic records, and this this whole total awareness, conceive the heavens and everything. It's like, of course, now I understand. Wow. This is amazing, this total spiritual soul experience, right? Like some DMT type thing. It's like, forget the body, man. This is fucking wild, right? And that if you would be in that state, you could create anything you want to because you would be able to have almost create a dreamscape that could be real. That's why the metaverse is such a ridiculous thing. Who wants to create a fake, half-assed reality when you actually have a dick and you have eyes to see and ears to hear, right? You see what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, I don't care.
Oh, I do.
Your people wear a full bodysuit connected to your genitals and everything else. It's like, okay, so great. But what kind of, screw that. What about just, and so there's two ways of looking at this that are neither are positive. One is this technocracy and this idea of people, trying to, augment the perfect, android of creation, the God created, whatever you believe is God, or whatever you believe is, if you believe in like this Christ consciousness idea, whatever you believe in, whether you call it a soul, a spirit, your just consciousness, whatever, the idea is that why would you, this is the ultimate machine. It's the fact that we've abused this machine as a society, as a over millennia, and we screwed up. And so maybe those previous civilizations didn't. And, we see remnants of these ancients that got, still, that's the ages, these like fourth ages of the earth, these end time things. I'm not talking about like end times biblical in a sense, but that's probably where they got it from. But this idea that, the earth is going to get destroyed, it happens. We know it happens. But to ascend after that as a pure being is and be prepared to get through this abyss, this eighth sphere, and to be able to laugh at this Armand who is like basically is close to a god. These are demigods, like gods, Lucifer and Armand, and to be able to like laugh at them. Here's the thing. There's that quote, and I'll quote it exactly because I want to, because it was quoted last night, but I have to dig it out here. Yeah, okay. Yeah, this is, where is it? Oh, come on. Not poem. Here we go. Yeah. This thing they read, this Psalm 23, okay? Let me see if I can get to it. This freaking YouTube is useless. They're so anti anything spiritual, anti anything truth. Oh, come on. You fucking. Every time I go to YouTube, I am totally frustrated. What does it mean? Okay, here we go. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. All right? And I'll say that again. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me, your rod and your staff. Right? And that's the idea, this song, it's called Psalm 23. That's, that's basically, that's Old Testament stuff, right? And the idea is that is the most probably one of the most important things that people have to have and should have memorized in their frickin' head. Because that valley of death is the abyss. That valley of death is the eighth sphere. The valley of death is Bardo, okay? And the point is, you have to walk that. You have to be able to travel through that valley of death and get to the other side and know and keep yourself about you. And there might even be temptations there of things. You know, you might, be, all these beautiful naked women might come over to you and shit like that. Come stay here, live in lust and luxury and here with us for all eternity. Come here, right? You know what I mean? And you just got to keep moving, however it occurs in your mind, whether it's a boat or whether you're walking this dark abyss, you're in total blackness and nothing's there. You just keep moving and get the fuck out of there. You do not want to be caught there. Anyway, I know that's why I say a lot of people don't talk about this because it's scary, because people don't want to think about it. They want to think about, I'm just going to follow the light. And I've seen all these near-death experience videos. There's hundreds of them all over the internet, and I'm just going to follow. And it's like, no, if you see a guy with the white beard saying, here, welcome, or if you see a relative of yours saying, come on, welcome, hey, so glad to see you, glad you made it. No, that's Armand, that's a demon, that's fake. That's not how it is. You have to pass through this area. You'll find whatever is out there, okay? Remember, the evil's going to come to you in whatever form it can tempt you in, all right? And if it could tempt you as some Pam Anderson, Baywatch bodied babe, or your long lost relative, or if you're some scientific guy, Albie Einstein, come walk with me. I'll explain relativity to you. It's like, no, that ain't it, man. Those are the people to avoid. And forget that tunnel and the light. That's not the light. Okay, that's the soul trap. That's the reincarnation trap. You want to rise to a higher level, to the next. You want to get off this prison planet.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's a mouthful. It's scary stuff, but I mean, it's interesting, and I can't profess to know. No one knows. This is called the unknowable. People have been writing about this, but there seems to be people who, have come over the ages that, somehow tell these tales. It's just like those children that are born that remember previous lives, right?
Yeah.
And it's the same with some mystics and stuff like that. And so this information has come to us from reliable sources, to use a ridiculous word. But I mean, it's the idea that it's time proven and it's been repeated. It's universal and it's all over the planet, on every continent, in all kinds of ancient cultures. And they're saying, beware of this thing, whatever you want to call it, that you've got to pass through that. And it's encroaching on the earth at end times, where it's almost like surrounding and choking us. And these are end times right now. That's why things are so fucked up. This is like one of the end times.
What do you think of the concept of the Bodhisattva?
Well,
the Bodhisattvas are the ones that, even though they could enter into paradise past the bardo, they come back to help other people get closer to paradise.
Right. Yeah. Bodhisattva. I'm into that. I'm open to that idea. I remember, being like into that. I was into I was also into like when I was in LA, I was into like new Buddhism and shit like that. I used to be into this Nam Myoho Renge Kyo and chanting, and I had some really good positive experiences. doing that kind of stuff. There's a lot to Eastern religion that's very, I don't know. I don't know how, it's hard to say. Like, I'm personally drawn. I have two things that, like, I'm not doing anything right now but these broadcasts. Okay, that's basically what I'm doing.
Well, hold on, Tony. Can I ask you a question? Real quick? Why do you do the broadcast?
Well, it's like service to others.
Yeah, you're trying to wake people up.
Right,
man.
right. But there's two.
Well, that's the literal definition of the Bodhisattva, my brother.
Yeah, I know. And there's two things.
One who seeks to awake.
So there's two things that I've like put aside. And one is my mystery school studies, which I had begun years ago and stopped. Okay. So I stopped doing that because life got in the way, and I put aside that. And the other is this idea of these Eastern concepts, both of which I have had positive experiences with, like positive life experiences. And though at the time when I was doing them, all good things, almost though I don't believe in the law of attraction, because the law of attraction is too materialistic in the way the New Age people look at it. In other words, the law of attraction is, I want things, I want bling bling, or I want something materialistic. But it's like kind of like the law of attraction in the sense that in the New Buddhism, the chanting, if you do the simplest, most basic New Buddhist thing, which it's not like, I'm not breaking any like thing or something. If you take, and someone could repeat, play this again. If you chant Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. If you chant that 3 times in the morning and 3 times at night and concentrate on something that is bothering you, disturbing you, or something that you need in your life, positive, not like a thing though, not like you want a car. Unless you need that car in order to do something good, like in other words, to get back to your family or to do some kind of thing. If you do that, you will find that these things come to you. And I have had at a portion of my life in L.A., maybe it was a coincidence, I don't know. It's a longer story. I could base a whole show on it, 2 shows. But I have found that when I was in the new Buddhism movement and chanting, that all these things were working. And almost so much in the bizarre of the bizarre was that I ended up living at a place with 2 girls, French girls that were like new Buddhists, and I went back to where I was working, and I had a business partner, and I was looking through at a new Buddhist. They had like a little publication that they used to put out, like a church bulletin type of thing almost. But I mean, it was like a rag type of thing. And I was looking through it, and there was an ad in there from the place where I was working, where I was like, had this business partner. And this is all after the fact. I go, hey, man, I didn't know you were a new Buddhist. And he goes, yeah, I do the Nam Myoho Renge Kyo every day. And it was like all those weird like coincidences and stuff and all this stuff. And, but anyway, that's the Eastern religious part, but the other part are the ancient studies of the, like I always try to tell people, all these people who are negative on the Illuminati, they don't understand. The Illuminati is just the final stage of studies of like Rosicrucianism, and even like people who are against the Masons and stuff like that. Like they don't understand it. People who don't like the Masons basically don't like labor unions, because the foundation, 90% of the people who are Masons, and at least when the Masonic temples were like, big, they're like nothing now. Half of them are being torn down, unfortunately. It was like a social club, and it was basically a preservation on how to make how to be a mason, and it was masons. I mean, they were mostly construction people telling you how to lay bricks and how to build buildings. It was an art, and it was a way of passing it down. But
it was a lot about how to set up a good foundation.
Yeah, exactly. And they also were part of, like, you know, it was also ultimately led to enlightenment. And so the Enlightenment is like the Illuminati. The Illuminati is one of those things that forward and backwards, it's the same. Like, you could turn it upside down and twist it. I don't know. It's a weird thing. But anyway, that is one path. You know, there are many paths that people have tried to find to reach, you know, ultimate, you know, nirvana or the, you know, whatever, help their souls and all that stuff. But
paradise.
You know, people are just not, this focus on such petty things. You know, I have friends, you know, some people I talk to, and they're like, they just can't, it just constantly comes up in the conversation. Biden, Nancy Pelosi, Trump. I'm like, these people are nobodies. They're nothing. They're just like, they're nobodies. They have no significance and consequence on your eternal soul and a life. Why are you getting upset about it? If you want to talk about things, that's why even the fossil fuel thing, it's like, yeah, we could talk about it, and it's logic, and it's interesting, and there are certain we live in this material world, and we have to deal with certain practicalities. But the idea in the grand scheme of things that, you know, the fact of the matter is these people are wasting their lives, and some of them are just soulless. They're soulless. They're already come in. They're soulless. Oh, by the way, you know, that Gigi Young's, you know, one of her other things is that the only way you can have a soul is if you come from a womb.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know, there's a bunch of people that have been trying to say for years that any test tube babies are soulless. But, you know, man, I think, so to me, a soul is a body and a spirit, and then a conscience is what I attribute most people to not having, which is the divine portion of the soul, is your conscience.
Yeah, well, that's an external. My battery was going low. Hold on a second. A little interference here. Your consciousness that's a weird thing. You know, I talk about that sometimes. The idea and what people don't grasp with the consciousness idea is excuse me, I just was distracted. Is that, okay, you've got a bioelectric brain, all right, in this android body, created body, okay? Whatever you want to believe, and how, you know, that all that nonsense, wherever, whatever. There's no need to get into those kinds of things. People have problems with that. That's their problem. But your soul, your consciousness, your mind, that's called the hard problem of consciousness. So, I mean, the idea is that no scientist today they have yet to have any consensus or resolve the issue of what consciousness is. I mean, there's some guys out there that say, well, it rises from the brain, it's created, but they don't know where. Some people say, oh, it's in, you know, it comes from this such and such and such, but they don't know. And the point of the matter is because they just can't accept the fact of a soul, a conscious of the concept of a soul, you know, as opposed to a bioelectric brain. And the idea of the separation, like, that's a whole interesting discussion because, see, this is the kind of shit that people should be dealing with, you know, and working out in their minds. It's complicated. And, you know, it's nothing you could do in just a simple show. But, I mean, the idea of, like, hey, all right, the brain is a supercomputer. We have no need to create any kind of computers, any quantum computers. We have one in our head. The problem is we put kids through K through 12, and all we do is teach them how you know, condition them to not be able to utilize their brain is basically what it is, so that they don't have the ability to have superior intellect. And like I said before, it's the same with savants and people like that. There's the capability of the human brain is outrageous, but it has to be nurtured and gone through, and that's the whole idea even with the mystery schools or any kind of schooling, is that you have to nurture a thing in order for it to reach its full potential. It's no different than an athlete having to work out in order to, have those muscles and be able to do those high jumps or whatever it's trying to do. And so the same with your consciousness is that you have to understand the brain is this is an android body. This was created by, for all practical purposes, created by God. All right? But, in some way, shape, or form, we don't know. These are the unknowables, and people who pretend, they say, well, it says so in the Bible, it's such and such. Yeah, okay, But, that's fine. I'm not disagreeing with you or whatever your book is at the particular, whatever particular person. The point of the matter is there's still a consciousness that is placed inside of this thing, occupies this android, in modern terminology. That's all. Some people might be turned off by that, or robot, whatever you want to call it. But just like me showing these freaking things, well, that's my new security camera. But people looking at where is the frickin' thing? It's up here. Just like looking at this insides of this, the human body, and you should see when you look through those CT scans in 3D and change them into colors, it's like, whoa, this is a very complicated machine. Just talk to a surgeon. Even those Boston Dynamic robots, man, they can't come close to what this thing is. But the consciousness, there are certain things you don't need. Like some people think, okay, well, what about our connection to our five senses, our eyes, ears, mouth, nose, skin, right? What about the five senses? Well, consciousness taps into that because it's housed, it basically, your soul is placed into this body. But once you transcend out, it's like the dream state. When you're dreaming, and if you have a real lucid dream, which we've all had, or most people have had lucid dreams, you could experience, your senses, full senses. And so that means that consciously you don't really need this body to experience senses. And that's the other idea. In other words, so whatever you want, you could probably in some kind of dream state, at a higher dimension, a higher vibration, a higher density, whatever you want to call it, that you're not going to miss this physical body. And to be caught up in this idea that this is all there is, and to just think physical materialistically is a mistake. But the idea is, though, you have been placed on this Garden of Eden to have this beautiful life. And so in effect, the story of Adam and Eve is a very interesting story if you look at it from my perspective. The fall of man, or this whole idea, is that it's not about two people that, millions of years ago or billions of years ago, fucked up, all right, with some snake in a tree. It's about right now, man. It's about humanity. It's about the idiocy, look around right now. It's like, you know more, better than anybody else. If you're standing there watching a sunrise, all right, if the weather is nice and it's like, it's I hate you too, I shouldn't hate, but Bono's an idiot. But that song "Beautiful Day," if it's a beautiful day and you feel and you breathe in fresh air and you're feeling a nice warm breeze on you and you're looking at a beautiful sunrise and and everything's just, it's a beautiful day. Yeah, that's, take it in. That's happiness. That's life. That's what it's all about. That's what people should be fucking focusing on and should be living. But instead, they're thinking, we got to get Trump back in office. This is the midterm elections are real important. We got to change Congress. And what? We got to do this. We got to do that. No, you don't. What you got to do is basically enjoy the beautiful day, enjoy the Garden of Eden. Instead, what you're doing is you're listening to the frickin' snake, telling you like these meaningless things are important, and hey, you need some more bling bling, and life's about this. And why don't you take all? Here's the sad, pathetic, but almost laughable thing. Why don't you do this? Why don't you take all of the best times of your life? Okay, like this is the absurd one that really got me to the point where I am right now. So when you wake up, it's a beautiful day, and it's going to be a beautiful day. And why don't you go into a building somewhere, all right, in some HVAC, where some HVAC system is like, recirculating bad air, all right, Legionnaire's disease. Spend your whole day indoor, and then come out at night, hustle and bustle to do your laundry, take care, clean something, deal with this stuff, and then rinse, wash, repeat the same thing over and over again. That's that's the lie that the devil is basically put over people's eyes. The idea of like, just why would you take the best time of the day and become a wage slave for it so that you could just break even and pay your frickin' bills? You're a fucking slave, not you. I mean, that's what people are. And then die, and then they hope they reach a point of, when they finally, it's time, their life is over, or they could retire, and now they're this old thing, like, when you get older and then you suddenly need a procedure, and then you can't do the things you wanted to do. It's like, it's unbelievable what people do. They're just wasting their lives. They're wasting their lives. And then they think they're going to have, then these stupid people that think, well, then I'm going to go to heaven and then I'll have paradise there. It's like, no, man, you blew it. And you don't even know you're not even prepared for the abyss. How are you going to cross that? You're going to reincarnate and rinse, wash, and repeat, as I call it. You repeat the whole thing over again until eventually you learn. It's crazy, man. It's really crazy. You still there? Trey. Did I lose you? I guess I did. I don't know. Yellow. You there?
Jack isn't plugged in. Hey, there we go.
Well, what happened?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, sorry about that. What happened
That's
was...
okay.
Yeah, I'm up to 49%. I got... My cell phone was off.
Yeah.
I hooked up this... well, I wasn't off, but I got this warning, so I plugged it in to charge it.
And it knocked off the headphone.
That's weird. I guess because some people use... That's right, because people use USB audio, and so that's probably what did it.
Yeah, but now you can hear me, right?
Yeah, it's loud and clear. This is going to actually be a good quality replay.
Good.
Because it's good. It's good in the headphones. So
I agree. I agree with what you're saying. I call that whole thing the hamster wheel of stupid. With like the literal, meaning of stupid, just to be slowed.
Right.
And I don't know if it's people's ignorance or if they've all been what you call glammed, or the glamour of the fake world of the pretenders keeps people from seeing the light,
Yeah, it's the black mirror which has really taken over. It's like if you go back in the ancient witchcraft and black magic, even like the even fantasy, fairly modern fairy tales of Cinderella. I think it was Cinderella or one of those. Mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest of the wall? That witch or whatever she was had a black mirror, and in the old
wasn't that Snow White?
Snow White, yeah. In the old days, they would warn you about the black mirror, and that was like something that was used in like witchcraft and black magic. Now, if you look up until like the 21st century, because we still had cathode ray tube monitors and stuff, even in the 90s. It wasn't until like the flat screen TVs really started to come in, and then flat screen monitors, and then ultimately we had smartphones, laptops, and tablets. Well, if you look at them when they're turned off, unlike the previous cathode ray tubes that were like kind of greenish tinted or gray or something like that, everything now are black mirrors. Right? And so they've all basically the glamour, like in witchcraft. And I've known witches. I mean, I've that's another one of the experiences I've had. I knew a coven of witches in when I was in LA. They were good witches, supposedly. All right. And they had powers. And I experienced that. And it's hard for people to understand that. Like this one, just one quick story. Well, I could tell a lot of stories, but just two real quick. I'll try to make this fast. I don't want to waste a lot of time. One time when I was moving from Malibu, I moved back to West Hollywood, basically Beverly Hills area, because I got into one of these 90210 apartments. As much as I liked it at the beach, me and this business partner of mine, who was also one of those the new Buddhist guy, we opened up a place on Sunset Boulevard, and I didn't want to have to. It was a pain in the ass commuting from the PCH Malibu into LA. It was at La Cienega Boulevard for people who know that part of LA. And in the morning, it was just gridlock. All right. It's crazy, California traffic. So I said, the heck with it. I love the beach. I lived here. I still have friends at the beach. I have places to go on the weekend if I want to, blah, blah, blah. But I'm moving to this place. And I moved into this really cool, it was like 90210. There was a pool in the middle, and all the apartments surrounded that pool on 2 levels. And it was right next door to my office, this office that I'd set up. And so I got that place. Well, in the interim from me leaving and renting out my space in Malibu, getting that rented and finding somebody to move in, and before I could move into this new place that I was going to rent on Sunset Boulevard, there was a couple of days where I would have been homeless. So I went to one of the witches in this coven, who I'd helped out. She was a musician. I don't want to get in. I respect people's privacy. I'm not going to talk about who it was specifically. And but she was a background she's a background singer on some big hit songs. And anyway, so I said, "Hey, can I crash it crash on your couch for a couple days till I can move into my place? And she said, sure. So I go there the first night, and I'm in her place, and we had dinner or something, and glass of wine or something, and so we weren't sleeping together or anything. So she's setting up, gives me a pillow and a sheet or something for the sofa, and she's going off into the bedroom. As she walking toward the bedroom, I go to her. I go, man, this place just feels so like, I don't know how to describe it. It's so beautiful, so peaceful, so calm. And she said, as she closes the door to her bedroom, she goes, I worked really hard at that. Right? And it's like, it was a trip. I mean, it was a weird experience, and that's like a white witch type of thing. And then another time, one of the other witches in the coven, I was stressed out. This was a different time altogether. I was doing like 3-4 different things out in L.A. I was involved in all kinds of weird business shit, managing people, trying to get this movie thing going, still involved in this business, and some other crap going. And then I was married to this Dutch actress, and she was a freak. She was like, I was fucked up. She was just a psycho. And so I went out to the desert where this other witch lived, and she basically was the first one to introduce me to like sage and cleansing your aura and stuff like that. And that stuff really works. And if you get sage, you just, get somebody to give your body a sage bath, like go around and cleanse your aura. But there's another aspect to cleansing your aura that someone who's a witch or somebody that knows that kind of thing, or a mystic, the witch scares people, Well, anyway, you would take your hand, and as you cleanse this person's aura, or cleansing this person's aura, you would take your hand and you would pull away like this, the evil stuff away from them, okay? The stuff that's causing all them problems, the stress. And at one point when she did it, I was like, there was this electric, like, we both got like shocked. Like it was like such a weird thing. And, and so she used to think, like, she used to call me like a wizard, or something, like some old soul wizard type thing. But she, it was like we both at the same time. Did you feel that? It was like, and it's like, so there's a whole different world of power out there and interesting stuff and magic. And there's good magic, bad magic, whatever. People don't understand all that stuff. But I've had some experience in those areas, and that's like, and that's all part of the awakenings that I've had, is dealing with people with this kind of stuff. But it's all real.
Do you ever use the San Pablo?
No.
It's a bark like sage that you burn. I have a bunch of it.
Well, anyway, so what I'm trying to get at is that this the whole purpose of that's a positive, good part of something I'm just talking about. But the idea, the bad part, the dark side, is this black mirror. So this.
Hey, Tony, did you ever? So I think Cortez brought black mirrors back to Europe from the Aztecs, and the Aztecs used them to see the future, go back and forth through the realms. They did talk about demons that lived.
Yeah, there's a price you pay. There's a price you pay for black magic. See, this is why no one wants to talk about this eighth sphere.
Well, also prior to that, the Adam supposedly had a black mirror that he talked to God through. That's in a bunch of the old stories.
Yeah, right.
And then they used the Enochian language to go back and forth, and then some guys revisited that here in modern times where they were trying to, I forget who it was, but there was a couple of cats that were doing it. Kelly, John D. And Edward Kelly, and they would look into it to speak to the angels.
Yeah,
probably demons.
Yeah. Well, the thing of what I'm trying to say is, all that's true. And
John D. was the guy that was the spy for Queen Elizabeth. Remember?
Yeah. Well, they're all fucking. Yeah, they're that's David Icke type shit. I mean, they're like fucking. The Queen is I don't know if they're for all practical purposes, she may well be a fucking shape-shifting lizard fucking person for all I know. I mean, you know what I mean? All right, but
what's the deal with Andrew not sweating?
Yeah, right. Well, anyway, so here's the thing, though, about this, though. All that's true. Yeah. But no, forget about those individual instances you're talking about. What I'm saying is the reason things have gotten so fucked up in the past 15 years in the 21st century, so to speak, like once the black mirrors became into everybody's house and into everybody's hand. Your smartphone is a fucking black mirror, man. You see?
Yeah.
Everything's a black mirror now, right? Everyone has an HD TV. And so what these things have taken control. Now, look, you as an individual and me, this is the whole idea of being able to pass through the abyss, pass through the threshold, pass through the eighth sphere, pass through Bardo and all that stuff. You have a strong enough spirit, okay? A strong enough soul, you are a strong enough person. You have ascended enough. You're an old enough soul, okay? That this black mirror isn't the magic. See, what you were talking about, the glamour, that's what made me think about the witches, right? Because what they could do is they could put the glamour on people and so make people believe almost anything, you see? And basically mesmerize you with the glamour. Well, that's what these black mirrors are doing to weak-minded people. I'm immune to it. You're immune to it. So, yeah, you could carry your smartphone and use it as a tool. It doesn't matter because it's not going to affect you because you're stronger than that. You see? It's just like the glamour won't affect me, okay? Certain people can't be put under hypnosis, right? And any hypnotist will tell you that. They'll say, well, we can't hypnotize 100% of the people. There are some people that just we can't,
they're passive participants, hypnotists, or hypnotees, and you have to give your will over to that other person, and I'm just not prepared to do that.
Right, or the idea is that your soul won't allow you even, and that's what I'm trying to say. There's the duality of man, and that's the thing people aren't aware of. Is that what I'm trying to get at to get full circle in this conversation? This consciousness, okay, you've got this physical body with the five senses, this thing that you've created, and yes, it does function. There are people walking around soulless, basically, that the average person doesn't know the difference. When you go into a store and there's these people buying shit, and when they say there's a storm and people are going in and buying milk and white bread and shit like that, they're just androids. They're droids, They're just doing stuff. Whatever they see on TV, they believe. They're people, oh, yeah, Biden, whatever. Who cares? They're caught up. Those people are of no consequence. I can't help them. You can't help them. No one can help them. In fact, they're, over who knows how many carnations, bits and pieces of their personality and their soul have been caught up in this abyss. And what happens is ultimately the abyss amalgamates at these end times, these these turnings they call them or whatever. Some people call them like the fourth turning or something. That's another term. I don't know too much about that, but there's like people talking about that too. And when these end time things, that's when the abyss actually serves as a function, and it puts together these things and they can reemerge. So it's actually a functioning thing, because the universe is like not chaos. All right. There's an order to the universe and this whole thing. It's unknowable. I don't pretend to know it all. But what I'm getting at is these black mirrors have proliferated and are ubiquitous. And people are being they are just totally, mesmerized by them from using it in the term of the black magic magician's word, mesmer, right? And that's the whole thing. And that's what's going on, man. And people, and that's why I get 0 views and stuff like that, and I'm playing off it with my whole thing. I have a plaque I made, Tony Caravan Live, for exceeding 3 views, right? Yeah.
Well, man, they got the tamper on you, man.
Yeah, I know, but fuck them.
It's impossible that a live show can be done consistently every day with the billion people watching YouTube and you not pick up 300-400 views. I mean, it's just impossible.
Well, and especially when I go,
people would click on it just from your thumbnails alone. They're interested.
That's what I'm saying. And the fact of the matter was, before the Black Mirrors took over, when I was doing these podcasts and these things on real audio, like I played one earlier on the show. I don't know if you were listening there, but just the beginning of one of them here. Let's see.
Oh yeah, no, I heard it. Right. I used to help.
Yeah, so
Fireside Chats.
Right.
I used to listen to those.
So
back in the day, bro, after 94.
There was no Black Mirror, right? So the point was, I was getting 20,000 minimum, and I had some shows hit 100, where I was getting 100,000 people, because we were broadcasting out of onair.com in San Diego, which is long since was sold over. It was an ISP. But I knew the owner. He sold out. He bought a mountaintop with it. He was one of those guys that knew when to get out of the .com thing before the .com crashed, whatever. So he but I had a deal there. We had a physical server there in the ISP. We had our own machine. And so we were hard. I mean, that's hard to imagine for some people. In other words, we were broadcasting I was broadcasting at an ISP, hardwired into the uplink. You know what I mean? And I remember one time I had a cousin who ends up working, somehow involved with Oprah Winfrey and stuff, and still does shows and stuff. And he was doing a show. He was getting into a show back then, and he used to have a tech talk show or something like that. I think he ended up working on CNET and stuff. I lost touch with him. I don't talk to him anymore. He's a little bit of a prima donna too, but I don't really care. But I remember one time he called me in a panic. He said, our servers aren't working. We got a show. The show comes on in 1 hour, and I can't get connected. Can you help me out? Because he knew I was doing it. I had a show, and I said, yeah. I said, here, I'll give you some, here's the numbers. Here's the URL or whatever. Just gave him the proper things to set up so that he could do a live webcast from. And so I'm on the show. I'm on the show that night. I was on the show because I used to be a guest on there occasionally, and I'm on the show as a guest. And I had a really neat hookup too, because I was using one of those PBX phones, and I had hooked headphones up to the PBX phones and a microphone up to it, and so my voice sounded better than his. You know what I mean? As a guest on the show. But all these people were coming on in that show, and it was getting up to in the tens of thousands of people on that live webcast that night. And everyone was saying, hey, man, how come it sounds so good tonight, and it's so clear and all this, And I said, yeah, you're on my frickin' server. I said, I had the best server, Well, that was me and Tattoo. And it was we had a server. We were doing this stuff before anybody else. And so I used to get 100,000 views, 20,000 views and stuff like that and or listeners, depending on what it was. And I was written up in some magazines. It was the longest running lounge show. I used to do music before that.
Yeah, I remember.
And
we did a show together July 4th, 1999.
But when the frickin' Black Mirrors came around, and when these new tech people took it over, then that was the end of it. And it was also when I was competing with Google with my search thing that they tried to claim was like they were scared to death of it. I to this day, I still tell people, if I would have resurrected my search, my program, it wasn't really so much search as far as internet information technique. If that were utilized today, people would be like, wow. It's so much better than Google. I mean, it's like, I don't know, it would be like 100 times better than Google.
You got to talk to Curry about it, man.
No, I don't give a shit about it. I'm not, like I say, there's a million things I could be doing and I'm just not doing. Like I said, it's, garden season will be here in 2 months. I'm into the fucking earth. I'm into life. I'm into living. I'm trying to save my soul and, and other shit. I don't really. And besides, like I said a million times before,
I think your soul's pretty safe, though.
I don't want, like I said, I don't want to I got paperwork here to fill out for keep my benefits or whatever, all that stuff coming in and stuff. I don't want to make any more money because I don't, I'm comfortable living the way I'm living, like I said. And I don't know. I'm just trying to keep a little energetic thing over. It was supposed to rain yesterday, and I think I basically kept put a mystical dome over my house. They didn't get any leaks. So the thing is, but it's crazy out there, and people aren't awakened to this to reality. They're just living. They're captivated by the Black Mirror and all of the stuff involved with that. There's people trying to find eternal life through man and machine, right? Everything, we're dying. They took 2 years off of our life expectancy through these GMO foods and all this crap, and all people are worried about are politics and climate and fossil fuels, which are about as organic as you can get. And nuclear, you're right, we should have been like France. We should be all nuclear by now. But the point is, at this stage of the game, the planet's not going to last long enough for us to do some kind of paradigm shift like that. And it's too frickin' cold in the whole northern part of this North America, that fossil fuels are the only thing that could heat the winter. It's like,
nuclear would crush that.
Yeah, it would, but you know how long it takes to build the plants and stuff, and
it doesn't. So yeah, but that's the old system, man. You can build a plant with a thorium reactor that's the size of a dumpster, a tall dumpster. You can put one of those into the existing grid every, 6 miles.
Yeah.
And you can do 50,000 people per one. And they would take about 3 months to
Right. But is the Democrat Party and Joe Biden going to do it? Is Donald Gold Toilet Trump?
Oh, no.
Donald Gold Trump Toilet? Gold Trump? Gold toilet seat Trump and or Rubio or whoever these people are. No, they're not going to fucking do it.
I tell you one, you got to check out. Are you familiar with the American Pravda series?
No.
Ron Unz. Have you heard of that guy?
No, but I'll look into it.
You got to start looking him up, man. He came up with a thing, and it's about the thing from China. He's come up with some real good information in the past few days.
I mean, that's sad. Go ahead.
About a lot of stuff.
Fuck.
And Trump. Apparently we're working definitely.
What the? You still there, man?
Please leave.
Yellow.
Hey, did you knock me off?
Yeah, you have to understand it's just a fucking iPhone.
Oh yeah, is the charger and the headphone the same
No, it
thing?
wasn't the charger this time. It was just for some reason it started giving me some kind of weird it's stretched. I don't have like a long case. It's a very unique. I was lucky to get what I got because
the cable.
They don't. I'm using an older iPhone, not like the generation before. I forget which one it was, but it's not a newer. It's like two phones before, but it's still of a semi-newer series. But it won't take the latest operating system. It still has a phone, has a jack in, headphone jack in. Okay.
Okay, cool.
But what they had left in that headphone jack is this triple feature that allows you to have mic and jack, which is like totally not in the new stuff. In other words, so I found a thing about 2 years ago, a couple years ago, and I was able to rig up this wiring system so I could you can hear. See, I'm listening to you in my fucking headphones, talking to you through a microphone, going through a mixer that's then going through everything else. It's a pretty fucked up setup. The only problem is the jack, the unique jack that I'm hooked into this phone with, there's no extension cord I could get for it because for A, they don't make them. B, it's outdated. C, I don't think there ever was one, right? I mean, because...
Right.
And I would need to have like 2 extension cords to move the thing over. Maybe I could do that. I don't know. Maybe that would cause a buzz or a hum or something else.
Right.
I don't know.
It sounds good right here.
Oh, no, it's fine. It's just it's in weird, odd position. It's like half tilted next to my fucking mixer over top of a mouse. You know what I mean? It's just weird.
I know.
It's weird.
They got... We've been using, they made these new little boxes that you just plug the cell phone in with a 3.5 millimeter or the Thunder or the Lightning or the USB-C. And then that box goes to the mixing board, to headphones, and to line out audio. And they're pretty cool, man.
Yeah, I'm sure they have. I also have.
Yeah, they're cheap.
Yeah, and I also have I have one of the old school ones, which I was using. I actually have one you could hook your phone, phone jack into. Like I have the old fashioned one where you can take calls, on a phone,
Right.
So if
this does that as well. It's for conference calls but it's the modern one.
Yeah. Well, I have one that, basically you just plug your phone jack your line in from your phone line in, to the wall jack. And then this thing does the same thing. And I used to use that when I took calls like a long time ago. I still have that. I just saw it yesterday.
The Cocktail Twins.
Yeah.
You remember that?
Where'd you get? I don't know.
We did. It was July 4th, 1999.
Maybe
Didn't we do a phone interview with them?
I might. Yeah. I did a lot of phone interviews. I mean, with so many.
No, but we did with the Cocktail Twins on. ROCKFLUX.
Yeah, it's possible. Like I said, I don't remember. I mean, I was doing that stuff nonstop then. You have to remember.
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, if I would have kept, I have archives of, even of all the expedition video or audios and video, but I mean a lot of audio, and then radio. Then that fucking dickhead guy from when I was working at the radio station, I did interviews, some radio interviews that I had on tapes there that I never got. People were jealous of me and something, and I think they destroyed them. Fucking pisses me off. I had some interviews, like I interviewed like Annie from, remember that band Renaissance? They were really far out there. And I did an interview. I did an interview with her over the air, live over the air, but I mean it was taped. I taped it live. And I got into a conversation with her. It was like an hour interview. And I didn't even, in that interview, because she had never mentioned before, because she had just happened that she had cancer and stuff. And then she got into this whole thing, and we were talking about Renaissance and the 70s and the band and the music industry and like WMMR. And in fact, I think the interview, I gave it to MMR, and they might have played part of it on the station because it was that good of an interview. And and she invited me down to the show. I never went to the show, but she goes, I was on the guest list. It was like a real crazy it was like the best interview of my life. But I had other fucked up interviews. Like I used to interview everybody from Eddie Money to you name it. And people like that were just on ego trips doing their like junket type interviews and stuff. But I had some classic interviews with some really obscure artists and stuff that were really in depth and wild, and I would bring out stuff in them, and I'd really get into it. And it's like it's too bad that radio died. Clear Channel pretty much destroyed that. I mean, you got Sirius Satellite, but as the old timers like just start retiring off and stuff, there's not enough new blood coming through. And well, I don't know. And then you got guys like Neil Young that have like lost their fucking minds and stuff. It's not even worth talking about. Like they're not even in touch with reality anymore. You know what I mean?
Hold on, man. All that's all bullshit. So Hypnosis bought Neil Young's catalog. Right. They bought all those people's catalog in 2020.
Right. The guy
and Neil Young has had his own hosting service the whole time. This whole thing is to bring light to his hosting service because Hypnosis and all of these people that are all artists there, none of them have any hits on that platform.
Right.
So they only get 0.23 cents per stream.
Right.
So a guy like Neil Young, with his current amount of streaming that he gets off Spotify, if Hypnosis was getting a piece of that action going through their platform or Neil Young's platform, it would exponentially increase the value of their stuff. But Hypnosis is owned by BlackRock. It's the same bad actors that have been acting poorly the entire time.
Well, some people
that's all manufactured bullshit.
Some people can argue that BlackRock. There's this woman, I can't think of her name offhand, and I'm sorry I can't, who's did the whole show on BlackRock. BlackRock basically rules the world.
Yeah,
basically, and it's like it's a name that nobody knows. I did a show actually. If you go, anyone else listening, you may have seen it or not. I actually mention it. It's mentioned. It's on the title card. It says, "Who are the three enemies" or something like that. And BlackRock is the first one listed. And if you listen to that show, I probably mentioned this woman, but I mentioned what BlackRock is doing. Yeah, BlackRock is like the evil empire. Basically, people have no idea.
Definitely a part of it.
But anyway, so those, that it's all bullshit.
But BlackRock's just the tip of the iceberg, man. The real evil fuckers, nobody even knows their names.
No. Oh, of course they don't. Nobody knows what's going on. That's the unknowable. That's part. See, get back to your Black Mirror thing. They're communicating through the Black Mirror to the real fucking people who are, I mean, that's
Right.
the whole David Icke thing. Like I say, like you know, that people like they make these people out to be psychos and stuff, and you know, but they don't understand that like there's more truth in a David Icke thing. There's a lot of like weird stuff there too, but I mean, there's more truth in a guy like David Icke than there is in Joe Rogan. You know what I'm saying? You know, or his guests. And so the idea is that, you know, and he doesn't have the balls. See, I don't like Rogan because he doesn't have the balls. If Rogan had balls, he would have like put Trump on. He would have interviewed Trump. If he had the balls, he would interview David Icke. You see,
dude, he was trying to get Trump on.
I don't.
And he would definitely have David Icke on.
I don't think he's tried. David Icke would.
No, he did. He did try, man. I work with that camp. I know those guys.
I don't see why. Why would David Icke not go on? That's a
David Icke only wants to do a phoner. So and Joe doesn't really do many phoners.
Well, I don't know why he wouldn't, and I don't know why Trump wouldn't do it.
Trump didn't want it. He not only did he have his booking people do it, I was asked if I knew anybody that could get him in touch with the camp, and he openly said, "Come on my show," a multitude of times.
Wow.
And he didn't want to. Man, look. Come on,
well,
man.
then he's hiding something.
Why
I
would
said,
Trump want to go on Joe Rogan's show?
Because he would. Because then people could see him as a human being and not see him as Orange Man bad, right? In other words, that's why I don't like Trump. See, that's why I think Trump's part of this whole game. Because the point of the matter is, in other words, maybe he really is Orange Man bad then. See, if someone is making a story about you and has you as a cartoon character, right? This guy with a balloon with a diaper baby Trump, right? This, that, the other. Mm-hmm. See, I've watched Trump. All right, I've talked to Trump on the telephone. My first wife did some work for Trump. So I've had interaction.
I worked with him for 20 years, man.
He's not a fucking psycho. So if he was on Rogan, people would see that he's a real man.
Yeah, look, man, he is kind of a psycho. He went nuts on a bunch of business dealings.
Yeah, I know. Okay, but that's his thing. But I'm not talking. That's not it. The point is, they would see him as a real person. And we already talked about Trump, you and I think we did it on this show once. So I don't want to get back into that. But the point of the matter is, that means he's part of. It's all a game. So you know what this is?
That's what I think.
This is all fucking. This is a continuation. This is live action role playing game of that show. Well, it's not just pro wrestling because he was part of pro wrestling, but it's The Apprentice. It's a continuation of The Apprentice. He's got an ego. He's got a fucking ego, and he doesn't want. That's why he started his own social media platform, and so he's fucking over those Getter people, where everybody moved to Getter instead of him moving on. And the same with Rumble. Everybody's on Rumble now. Rumble's cooler than Facebook. Rumble is going to eventually be destroy Facebook because everybody's going on Rumble now. I mean, there's people getting like. Weird guys like that. Joe Bongino got kicked off of YouTube, and he has like 2 million followers. That was last month on Rumble. And people are getting millions of followers on there. So it's like
but those numbers are all fake, right?
No, they're not fake.
Yeah, they are. So the guy who came on, Tim Pool has 1 million people on, and the guy, the CEO of Rumble, came on. So it's all they do is clone what your Twitter following is. And those people can choose to accept their identity. And, it's a bunch of...
I'm talking about views, not followers. Views. I can understand that. Yeah, I've had that happen with me, too, where there's something else. Some other one does that, where my Twitter follow... Yeah. I forget what... Some platform I have. Something I had with my music.
Getter.
No, something with my music had followers. It would like just pull. I don't know.
It grabs your followers from Twitter.
I don't know if it would. Yeah, it would say, okay, yeah, you're following Spotify or something. Even your fans, they would call them fans. They would say I would have fans, and I'd like 2,000 fans. It's like, no, that's like my old Twitter. I haven't used.
You know the deal why Trump Social is not out, right?
Well, why?
Because they were going to put it in the Fediverse. Now they're going to they're going to a different platform. I'll think of the name. It starts with the P in a second, but there's no algorithm in the Fediverse that pushes you to the top. You have to pin everything to the top, right? So when they, it was supposed to launch February 2nd, and it didn't. Now they're saying sometime in March it's going to go. But I know some developers involved, and the deal is Trump wanted algos, and when he found out there wasn't algos that push everything to the top, that now they're having to go to a different platform that uses algos. It's compatible with the Fediverse, but they went to launch, and then they wanted everything back engineered.
Well, I understand that they offered 1 million people that they are on right now, but it's not open to the public. It's only open to donors.
It's not
a private net. It's private right now. If you gave money, you're on. But
if you paid to be a part of a beta that doesn't work and isn't lit,
wow.
It's not lit.
Well, whatever. It doesn't really matter. It's immaterial stuff because it's just going to water down Rumble and Getter anyway. In other words, Getter basically is destroying Twitter. All right, it's literally like it's wiping its fucking ass. And Rumble isn't going to destroy 2 billion active users on YouTube. That would take years. But it's starting to pull a lot of traffic away. A lot of traffic. And you know what? I like it. I've got it set up. Yeah. My shows are on there, and the quality of some of those shows are on there, and it's working. And what's happening is once you dilute, see, this is a good thing, because what happens is you dilute social media, and so suddenly people don't have one option. And I'll give you an example. I checked on to Getter the other day, and I had 48 fucking notifications. And it reminded me of when I was on the heyday of Twitter, when I used to be involved in Twitter, which I haven't been involved in it in a year. But I still managed to still keep a couple of thousand followers. But the idea is that Getter's moving like lightning. And there's like all these people, and they're, such and such following you, such and such following you, such and such following you. And you go and you look, it's a real person, and they got people following them. And there's people, everybody's gotten thousands of followers and shit like that. And it's like some people got like, hundreds of thousands of followers. So, and they're using it. And so what happens is that there comes a time when that thing, when it's hurting, it's watering down Twitter's base to a point where, the business model is a problem. Now, Facebook is going through some problems too, because they lost that dude, whatever his name is, who was on the board, who originally was the guy who kind of like was really responsible for making Facebook happen. And the metaverse isn't exactly going the way Zuckerberg is hoping it would. And so, and like I say, you're not going to take down YouTube because it's got 2 billion active users and it's so established. But eventually Rumble's going to whittle down and take away. But there's also this other thing, and I didn't want the show to run really long. It's this attrition going on in YouTube that this is just a little odd thing from my advertising marketing background. What's happening on YouTube that a lot of people aren't realizing, and why YouTube will fall, within the coming in about 18 months or so, if Rumble plays itself right, is that YouTube is subsidizing a lot of their monetization. In other words, it's not truly the people who are on YouTube. So I call them the YouTube millionaires. The people who are making six figures or making a good living on YouTube. A lot of that money is subsidized by Alphabet. It's not subsidized by the advertisers alone. They're not bringing in that kind of enough revenue for that. And the advertisers, an advertiser wants to get value for their dollar, and they don't want to see things propped up. And here's the other problem. A lot of these people have, YouTube is a journey. The foundation of YouTube, the people who are addicted to YouTube people, they're following people on a journey. And what's happened is YouTube is starting to reach the point of what I call attrition of old age. So that when you started to follow this couple that, like, they started out in a mobile home and they wanted to build a house. Well, now they fucking built the house, you see? And there's not, and they've made hundreds of thousands of dollars on YouTube. And now they're no longer the struggling couple that you want to follow, the DIY, blah, blah, blah. Now they're these rich fucks flaunting their vacations and their, and their $2,000, refrigerator. You see what I'm saying? And it's the same with a lot of these other things. So YouTube is going through a stage of it's not keeping up. By getting rid of people, by not allowing people like me, voices, right? And by getting rid of people, any controversy and discussion and all that stuff, all they're left with are their, like, old faithful, DIY, follow us through whatever. But those people are are within the next year or so are going to reach the end of their journey. And so that's it. And then the next generation isn't going, as generations go in, they don't like old people. And old people to somebody who's 13, 15, 18, or 22, they think an old person is somebody who's like 37, 45, right? Forget about it, somebody who's 50, That's an old fogey. That's older than their parents. Some people's grandparents are 50, you know what I mean? Especially people that, in their 50s. So YouTube's got a fucking problem. And so all the heavy duty discussion and arguments and all that controversy and what built YouTube is moving to Rumble. And that's why YouTube will eventually die. And Getter will kill Twitter. But Trump is a fucker. He's fucking with Getter because we don't need another platform. But anyway, all this stuff is really meaningless.
I don't know, man. Lots of platforms I'm good with. I mean, I'm in the Fediverse, man. There's millions of people there.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, but it waters it down. You can't fucking... In other words, first of all, this goes against the whole purpose of the show. So I apologize to anybody listening to this that wanted to hear about the eighth sphere and all that stuff. Because now we're talking about such superficial bullshit. Okay? The point about, let me just end this part of this whole thing. I don't care how many fucking million people go on Petticoat Junction or whatever the fuck you're talking about. All right? The point of the matter is, when it's watered down, it's no longer effective. You want an audience. It's like there's no reason for ABC, NBC, CBS, Fox, PBS, OAN, Newsmax, CNN, MSNBC, CNBC, Bloomberg, etc., etc., etc. It's watered down. There's too much. In other words, that's why Joe Rogan had 11 million views, and he was getting more views in one show than Hannity, Tucker, Rachel Maddow, Don Lemonhead, and these other people combined. And that's what the attack on Rogan was about, because they go, holy shit, he's getting more views than all of us combined. Because, in other words, it's all watered down. And people are moving to social media and moving to that kind of shit anyway. The point of the matter is, when you water down the metaverse when you water down the web, when you water down social media, and you have dozens of platforms, people find their favorite platform. I'm be honest with you right now. I'm on Rumble, but I don't watch it. I use YouTube, right? When I was on Twitter, I was every morning I go on Twitter. I was on Twitter for a fucking hour or two, and I was getting thousands and thousands, and I was involved in all these intense discussions with people and shit like that. And that was my world, right? And that's how people are. And there are people to this day that are diehards. They pick their main thing. I mean, there are some people that like put a little thing here, put a little thing there, put a little thing there. I mean, I was doing it with my shows. I would just go to Twitter, put my link on Twitter, put my link on Facebook, put my link on, some of these various little sites. There's some cool places out there like 3Speak that I bet you never heard of. Check that out. That's a fucking crazy place. All right. I'm on that. That's weird.
I know about FreeSpeak, man.
Yeah. And the same with Curry's thing. But anyway, just to end this show, because we're over 2 hours now. Look, I'll continue this this talk about the dark side and the eighth sphere some other time. I'm glad you called, Trey. Sorry we got on that weird thing and wasted time on it. I mean, it's not necessarily a waste of time, but it's meaningless, petty stuff. Because you know what? Fuck the internet. Fuck social media. Fuck social media. It's meaningless. All right? And you know what's going to happen one of these days? One of these days, the sun is going to have a CME like we had last week because we have a weakened magnetic field. And it was because of the weakened magnetic field and the fact that Elon Musk's Starlink satellites were only up about 100 miles because they're not up that far, that the weakened magnetic field wasn't strong enough to protect against this CME, which was a nothing burger, all right? But it took out 40 of his fucking satellites. It fried them because they're just these little tiny little things, you see? But this is a
Did you see the big satellites raining down?
But this is the sign of things to come. And what people don't understand is that one day, all right, your black mirror is just going to be it's going to be a black mirror to see your own face. You're not going to have any apps. And the internet's going to disappear. And when the grid goes down, because they haven't adapted your great idea of these smaller nuclear additions to the grid.
Decentralized grid. Yeah.
Right? And it would take them, and remember, we don't have the clowns. You should see the shit, the people that are trying to fix the sewer 3 times, digging up the ground, that we don't have the crews that built out the original infrastructure. We have these big contracting firms, We don't have the ability. So they say we're going to rebuild the infrastructure, build back better, right? Save America. If the grid went down, you see these like weird smash and grab shit and stuff. Like I say, they never covered that what happened in South Africa. In South Africa, they had some problems. People were smash and grabbing all the supermarkets and all the retail outlets. And you know what happened once they did that? Then they started going to the suburbs and they were smash and grabbing the distribution centers. And so people don't understand and that story wasn't really covered here in the U.S. Now, the grid goes down for a fucking week or two because people are they say people are 3 days away from fucking, losing their fucking minds. People don't know how to fucking cook, man. All they know how to do is put a DiGiorno pizza in a microwave fucking oven, all right? Or get some food from a fast food joint. But their power goes down, and most of those guys are fucking using these automated fucking microwaves and weird grills anyway. And so what are these people going to fucking do? They're going to fucking attack any place they can where they could get fucking food. I'm starving, man. Right? And then they're going to move out to wherever they can move, these mobs, until they like gorge themselves, and it's going to look like one of those fucking movies with that hot chick, those zombie movies, that girl, whatever they were called.
Laura.
3 or 4 of them they made.
Yeah.
And it's going to be these zombies just running through the countrysides, just looking fucking for shit. And you know what? Eventually they're going to start eating fucking people. Right?
Yeah.
You know?
That's the way it's always gone.
So, I mean, the zombie apocalypse, man, it's just around the fucking corner. It's one day away. You know, what if a fucking...
You got to go to North Philly, the zombie apocalypse.
Yeah, well, I know. Well, they're all over
there.
the place, man. You know, hey, where I live, if you go 8 blocks back, it's a fucking zombie apocalypse. That's why, you know, I was smart enough years ago, and I just put in another security camera. I have a picture window into my front window. I've got a fucking 3/4 inch plywood over top of that fucking thing. I just have I left open the top and the bottom view. And this winter I'm going to put an interior one and attach that with a fucking plate, you know. I'm prepared for this kind of shit. I've got I have all kinds of security measures planned, you know, to survive. That's why I've learned to grow indoors, man. I'm growing kale inside now and shit.
Yeah.
It's like I couldn't believe that, you know. So
Tomb Raider.
So
Lara Croft, Tomb Raider.
No, that was one of them. No, the other one was this other girl. She was a model. No, it was kind of half sci-fi. They created this underground lab, and then and she was like a clone of some kind, and it was zombies all over the place. In the first one, she was a real girl, but then they found out that she was. What the fuck was that? Some real hot. She started out as a model, and then she was this actress. It was a series. They did 4 of them. I'd like to. Excuse me. I could go back and watch them again because they were done pretty well.
You sure it wasn't Lara Croft in Tomb Raider?
No. It wasn't what's her face. Is that you mean? Yeah, Brad Pitt's ex-wife. Big tits, tight stick arms. No, this is a fucking beautiful a woman with a nice body. Okay. Fucking what's her face looks like tits on a stick. I can't stand women like that. Tits on a stick. That's like a dick.
Yeah.
That's like dick on a stick. Some girls it's like, well, I want a 14. I'm not going to get into that. But I mean, it's like, fuck that. The human body. There's a certain. You want to see. You know what the ideal woman is Pam Anderson when she was in Baywatch. That's what a woman should look like. I have a picture of that, and it's up to what other people to see what they think a guy should look like. Go back to some of the Greek statues and Greek and Roman, Greco-Roman views of humanity. All right, man. Well, it was good talking to you, and even though we got into some odd, weird shit, I think it's all reality.
I always
and
it's
what people talk about. And as for people. 20% off Valentine's Day on my fucking shirts and shit.
I tell you, I got one you need to look into. Spearfinger.
What's that?
Spearfinger. It's a
Good morning.
Stone-skinned being whose skin is like stone, who has the right finger on their right hand is a spear.
Yeah, well, I'll check into that. All right, man. Anyway, so I'll get out to this. I'll be doing this later. Good talking to you, man. Cheers. All right, I will be back, I guess, tomorrow.